we are back with another video. This time it's a little unconventional for how I normally do my music reviews, but this is what we're gonna write for today. So today, we're, simply put, we're reviewing Sabrina Carpenter's album. Short and sweet. We're gonna try to make this video short and sweet because that's how the album felt. Short. Not so much the sweet though. So, Sabrina Carpenter is somebody who kind of, me, burst onto the scene. I know a lot of people have their mixed opinions about it. Some people are saying, oh, this is because of Taylor Swift. This is not because of Taylor Swift. There are a few people that I've known Taylor Swift to kind of have a hand in, and I think it's okay to say that another artist had a hand in making your favorite artist bigger, right? It's not the end of the world. It happens. That's kind of just how it works. Gracie Abrams is one of note that I know kind of came from the Taylor Swift universe, and I'm not quite sure if she catches that same flack, but yeah, Sabrina Carpenter. This is what people are calling her first big album, and I'm not quite sure I would agree with that. Emos I Can't Send kind of seem like a pretty big album itself, whether people want to admit that or not. But I understand the sentiment. This is the first album where Sabrina Carpenter has had a significant amount of attention. And when I say significant, I mean significant. We kind of went from single digit millions to double digit millions in the span of a year, because that's how long it has been since her last album. And Emos I Can't Send was honestly a really nice album to me. It was really nice. It's kind of what I expected for short and sweet. But short and sweet kind of feels like it kind of feels like it lacks an identity, right? I'm not quite sure what Sabrina Carpenter's vision for her career is, but there were times where I kind of wondered within the album what her direction was. There were times where it felt like she was kind of indulging in more country pop-esque sounds, which I'm not sure if that right there is a Taylor Swift influence, because I don't really listen to Taylor Swift, but I would imagine that's probably not too far out from her style. And it just kind of made for some confusing moments, because I was expecting some very pop sounds and I didn't really get that. There were some moments that kind of felt a little poppy, but it wasn't anything too crazy. It was just kind of the standards. And it didn't really feel innovative. If anything, I felt like a lot of the songs blended together. I felt like a lot of the songs kind of just didn't really serve any purpose. They didn't have any star factor to them at all, really. There was a couple times that I would sit there and feel like I was listening to the same song, or I didn't realize that the song had transitioned. Or there were moments where I kind of sat around and wondered, am I still listening to a Sabrina Carpenter album? Because this took like a really hard country turn for some reason. And I think that might be a problem, right? Sabrina Carpenter has been in the game for quite a while. I think it'd be different if this was genuinely her sophomore album. Because, sophomore album, it kind of tells you more about the artist. But Sabrina Carpenter has been making music on record, on Apple Music at least, since 2015. 2015 was Eyes Wide Open, and she has released now 6 albums with this short and sweet. And I understand that over time, as an artist, your music does develop and it does change. But I think this is a point in time where Sabrina probably needs to settle on a sound, and I'm not quite sure that the country pop mixed with pop sound is it. I think she needs to create her own identity with that. And not to mention that, some of these songs were were a little overly sexualized. And I'm not sure what that is about in the pop industry at the moment. I kind of feels like maybe that's a growing trend at the moment. And I kind of come from the background of rap, where there's a lot of my mainstay genre. Well, I'm not a stranger to lyrics like that, but it definitely does feel like people are taking notice of this in pop more with people like Billie Eilish, where they say that they're pretending to indulge in these overly sexual acts and lyrics way too much, and that these are things that they should keep to themselves, which that's people's opinions. Now, do I really care? Not necessarily, but I would like some variety, because nobody wants to hear that 24/7. And I think as a pop artist, you kind of have to consider what your fan base is going to look like. And a lot of these female pop artists, let's keep it real. A lot of these female pop artists have a younger female audience, so it's definitely just trying to be mindful about stuff like that. There are certainly ways to kind of break yourself out of that, but not everybody's comfortable with things like that. So it just kind of feels, it feels like an odd time in pop where there's this transition that's being attempted, and people are holding these newer artists to older standards. And I would honestly say that these new artists are probably holding themselves to the older standards too. They're not really evolving their sound enough. And I would say that a lot of the audience is also not evolving their palette, right? There's no reason that we should be sitting here comparing a Sabrina Carpenter to a Beyonce. These are different generations. But in this current generation, I do think Sabrina Carpenter needs to pick a lane, and I'm not sure when that'll be. I'm not sure what it'll be, because honestly, I did expect a emails I can't send vibe again, and I just didn't really get that. It kind of felt like a different album. It kind of felt like her still experimenting. I'm not sure where the accent came from. I don't really feel like she leaned in on this like odd accent that she had going on in Short and Sweet. And maybe I'm wrong about that. But as an artist and an entertainer of any kind, you want to be able to convert people and make them your fans, and you want to have a very cohesive brand, which is kind of why I'm like dogging on this so much, because as somebody who doesn't indulge very much in pop, but I do indulge a little bit in Sabrina Carpenter, it was a little shocking to hear a more country-esque pop vibe that she was trying to go for, because to be honest with you, it kind of does feel like more of a Taylor Swift vibe. And if I wanted to listen to a Taylor Swift vibe, I would listen to Taylor Swift. There are other people that I feel like do pretty well with converting the Taylor Swift fame into a pop sound. Uh, like I said, Gracie Abrams, I don't believe I've ever had any moment in time where I've questioned what Gracie Abrams' identity is song wise, because it's always kind of generally had the same feeling to it. The Sabrina Carpenter one kind of just felt uninspired in some way. And, I really did expect more. It's not so much that I'm sitting here just trying to, dog on this album. It's just that I was entirely expecting an album that was similar to Emails I Can't Send. And instead, I got a weird in between genre album that just kind of didn't feel like it fit the mold. And I really did think that with the newfound attention, she would really double down on the Emails I Can't Send sound, maybe refine it more. But I really thought that that's what she would end up leaning into. And it just really didn't seem like that was the case. I have seen a couple people saying that this is her first and big last album. Like I feel like I've mentioned before. But, I think a lot of people are too quick to determine these people's careers, right? I think Sabrina Carpenter is definitely a mainstay. Now, will she have longevity? It kind of depends on what you consider longevity. I think she definitely has the staying power, especially considering, kind of seems like she's been in this conversation for a little while, maybe not for music, but for other things. So there's just a lot going on. For her next album, I would definitely like to have a more cohesive album where it doesn't feel like she's deciding between the sound. But whether that's gonna happen is entirely up to her and her team, right? I think they did beautiful work just promoting the album. And I think a lot of her singles is kind of what people were expecting, which is honestly what I was expecting. I was expecting a lot of her music, a lot of that album to sound like her singles. The singles were great. There was nothing at all bad with them. Like, at all. So, I think that kind of definitely added to the disappointment. Maybe if she would have put out a single with one of the more country pop-esque vibes, I wouldn't have been as thrown off. It just kind of feels like her singles are coming from an entirely different era of her life or an entirely different world. And I'm not sure what that's about. But her team definitely did justice by putting those singles out, right? And everybody was talking about those singles because they were actually good. And I would fair to say that those are probably the only good songs on the album that I've really heard. But there was definitely some decent moments in the album. It's just there's not many moments in the album that kind of give me much hope for her general sound and career direction as an artist. So, it's just kind of having to see where that goes. But Sabrina Carpenter album, short and sweet. And if you want to take a listen to it, take a listen to it. If you want to comment and tell me I don't know shit about Sabrina Carpenter or music, go for it. I don't really care.